Welcome back, family. Welcome back to the Root Cause Podcast. I'm your man, Frankie, where we like to have the hard conversations. Today, we got a fire show for you, a fire guest with a unique perspective on many things. I love introducing people to my supporters with great perspectives that I agree with, and some make me say, this episode is no different. But before we start, let's do our community work, man. Let's start with POP practices. POP, Pivotal Operational Practices. This is a virtual assistant program where they take care of your administration, your admin work in the back office, right? So you can go and be the face of your business. You can't be the face of your business if you're worried about building systems in the rear. Allow POP to take care of that, yo. We got milestones, elevations, and community development. I had an opportunity to work with this team on Wednesday. They donated a boatload of stuff to a shelter that burnt down. Now this shelter has a lot of things that they once lost to help the people that stay there, yo. Y'all go and support milestones, elevations, and community development, yo. Um, SOS, substance over symbolism. Substance over symbolism. This is a group of people that believe in relationship is the intersection to its appearance versus reality. They don't want to show what Instagram shows. They're in it for a healthy relationship, period. So check them out, SOS. If you're in the DMV area today, go to 2323 Shady Side Avenue. There's a backpack giveaway and uniform get a giveaway. The beautiful Jackie Page of 93.9 will be the host of the backpack giveaway. So that's 2323 Shady Side Avenue. Hop on, the company Hop On, helping our people out now, who also record at the Underground Lab. They're doing great work out in the community. Go check them out. Hey, yo, my book, my first work is still out there. Calculated with Love. Go to calculatedwithlove.com, or you can order the book. We also have some goodies on the page, other podcasts and other shows that you can see. Most importantly, you can order the book from calculatedwithlove.com. Go there, check us out now. Um, I'll also be at the University of Pennsylvania in Philadelphia on the 14th of September as a keynote speaker and talking about my book. So y'all check me out. There'll be a link in my bio and also a link on the website. Hey, let's get into it. We got a special guest today, man. This brother is some he may be familiar to some, but new to others. You can find him on Fox Soul. You can find him on large platforms like the Craig Fact Show. And he's a comedian. He's a community activist. He's a mentor. He's a community, communication specialist, is what I would like to call him. He's a jack of many trades, yo. Let's introduce today our brother, Dwann B. Welcome, Dwann. How you doing, my good brother?
What's up, my brother? How's it going?
Hey man, I'm excited to have you here, man. Thank you for accepting the invitation. We want to get into it today and promote everything, Dwann, and also get your perspective on many things, yo. So how have you been?
Man, I've been good, man. I've been good. When I first said, yeah, I saw 11:30. I'm thinking, hell yeah. I'm forgetting 11:30 is 8:30 West Coast time. You know?
Yeah, you up early, man. Hey, man, I appreciate it, yo.
I'm a committed. Once I say yes, this is what it is. That's just all it is. You know, I don't believe in saying yes, then like, oh, nigga, nah. Once I say yeah, that's just what it is.
A man of your word. A man of your word. So
Yeah.
so who is Dwann? I really didn't do it much justice, but you, from what I know of you, I can't put you in a box. You're a jack of many trades. Not only are you a comedian, but you deal with the youth also, and you're also an author. Let's get into it.
It's a lot. Like I tell myself, Jack of many trade, master at a few. And like working with kids is just that started just back in when I was 14. My the person that really showed me what life was about was my doctor.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my parents were working people, and they still great people, but they worked for people. My doctor was somebody who ran his own thing, and he did something outside of my immediate family. He really, Dr. Robinson. Shouts out to him. He's still alive. He was somebody who we just became very close back to when I was a child, and he had a program that he started out as a basketball tutoring camp. He had me start as a child in the camp, and then so I would sort of mentor the young. I was 14, and I would mentor the 6 and 7 year olds to be their teachers, And then as I got older in my 20s, anytime my doctor had anything going on in Watts, he did most of his work out of King Drew Medical Center here in Watts. So anytime he had anything going on in Watts, I was just there for him all throughout my teens and my 20s. And then I ended up getting a job as a behavior specialist with a mental health agency back in 2009.
Mm-hmm.
And so, my area was South Central LA, from Compton to Watts to Inglewood, all the neighborhoods you hear about on TV. That was my coverage area where my kids were. And I also coached basketball at the time. Like, I've always never been someone who could just do one thing. I got to do multiple things. Like, when I was in college, full time, I played the drums in 2 different bands. I worked at the bank, and the whole time I was working with kids, I also worked at that time when I was working with my doctor. That was just voluntary. I made my money working in banking and working in mortgage and things like that for the first 9 years of my professional life. And then I started making money working with kids. And then that's when I got into stand-up comedy and coaching basketball, because I needed that balance. I was always around the worst of the worst situations, in South Central. When they always talk about, defund the police, bring mental health advocates. Well, I was the person that the pet team would call to de-escalate a child who was in crisis. I was the person the police would call because the police didn't want to shoot him.
Yeah.
And so I needed some balance with that. So that's where I coach basketball, to remind me, hey, there's still some good parents out there, because working mental health, you can forget that real easily.
Yeah.
And then stand-up comedy was my way to, at night, I would work all day, then hit 5 or 6 stages a night. First started comedy in 2010 through like 2017. I still get up on stage, but I don't grind that hard anymore. But I would get off work, go right to the stage, and going to the stage helped me kind of process the bullshit I was seeing every day at work.
Yeah.
So that's how I developed so many different characteristics and things that I do. I've always done more things than one, and at the same time, everything that I did do, I've always tried to find the best way to do it and to be the best at it. And when you're trying to be the best at something, you just learn a lot by default.
Yeah. Speaking of stand-up comedy, I was at the Improv last night. My wife and I looking at Tony Rock. Tony Rock and his brother was in the building, and they did a wonderful job. Man, I'm a huge fan of comedy. I believe, much like you, in that balance, and that sometimes laughter can be the cure to many things, yo. And so, how has comedy helped you get over the burden of life sometimes?
I get to go on stage and just laugh about it. That's what it is. And like these last few years, I haven't been grinding as much in stand-up comedy. I feel it. When I'm doing comedy, it's just it's an endorphin release to go on stage, and there's 50 people up there, 100 people, 200 people, 5,000, however big the audience. You don't know any of these people, and you make them laugh. That shit just feels good. It's like a drug.
Yeah.
It's pretty like a drug, and it's a community, you know what I mean? And this is dope seeing my classmates. When I say classmates, the people who all started around comedy around the same time. It's great to see where everybody's gone and how successful they are right now.
Yeah. Speaking of the community, I want to give a shout out and say rest in peace to Teddy Ray, man. I understood that you were familiar, and also you knew Teddy Ray. Shout out to his family, man, and I pray their strength and peace during their time of loss, man.
From day one, I remember when Teddy first started out in comedy. He started about a year after me, a little less than a year after me and Craig, Big Job, Craig, Big Job, Daphne. We all started around the same time, 2000, late 2009, early 2010. Teddy came around late 2010, early 2011, and I remember when he came in. And he was always just naturally funny. You know what I mean? He didn't write jokes down. He just knew how to. He just would just talk, and he would be funny. And he was like, Teddy was like, the little nephew you always have to look out for. You know what I mean? You know he's gonna be all right, but you just felt a certain need to protect Teddy. You know what I mean? I don't know what it was. We all felt that way. Teddy was like little bro to all of us.
Yeah.
So when we had his memorial this past Thursday. I mean, everybody that that people love on the internet, all of them were there. And and Teddy actually he stayed here in my building. He rented a unit for me.
Wow.
And so it would be dope. I'd be doing my lives at midnight like I do on my YouTube, and it was very common to see a Teddy cameo. I'm talking whatever I'm talking, then next thing you hear some feet dragging. Oh, what's up, Teddy? Hey, what up, y'all? I'm gonna miss him for real. I love Teddy, man. I love him from my heart.
For sure. So I'm a fan of the LA area. Whenever I'm out there, man, it seems like they show so much love. See, on the East Coast, everything is so political, yo. But the West Coast, I got a different kind of air about you guys. And I hear you say one of your units. I know the cost of living out there is ridiculous. So you're into real estate when it comes to in LA or California?
Oh yeah, always. I've been into it because I started working in banking when I was 18.
Okay.
When I left, and that's how I paid my way through college. When I went through college, I paid my way through college cash.
My man.
I stayed home with my parents while I was in college, worked, and here's the check. I ain't about to take out a loan for you sucker motherfuckers. But when I left the bank, I worked in mortgage. I did hard money lending for like 4 years. And that's how I really got into it. I worked for a couple guys that would, we would own the second or the third, usually second lien position.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, the company that I worked for, it was a Jewish man who owned it, and he just took me under his wing, and he told me a lot of things that Jews don't tell non-Jews. You know what I mean? And I've just been blessed for that, and I've started managing buildings for him, and then from there, started getting like little small pieces of ownership, not enough to talk about, but enough to set me straight on how to make it, So from when I make my own moves, and so but yeah, I got a few buildings around here in LA, and I've been doing that. I've been doing that on the side for coming up on 15 years now.
Yeah.
I don't even talk about everything that I do because I'm a hustler, man. LA's a hustle ass city. You gotta make it how you make it. And some pots you make little small trickles of money. Other pots you make okay trickles of money, but you gotta have your hand in different pots, and when you put them all together, you're all right.
Oh, we definitely gonna have you back doing our real estate show just to give your perspective on certain things, especially on how business is handled there per se. Because real estate, no matter where you are, it seems like due to technology, you can handle it from wherever.
You can handle it from wherever. And thing about LA is when you black, you got to do things real covertly. You know what I mean? You come in real black, it's the reason why you don't see it. I hear a lot of people criticize like black businesses in LA and stuff like that. The reason why you don't see it like that is because we've never been the majority population here ever, and so that's always made it very easy for the LAPD and the powers that be to target us. And I have so many. I've done whole shows on this in my program, and I'd be happy to come back and talk to you guys about it.
Hell yeah!
About how they systematically isolate black businesses and pick them off. I started seeing this with my cousin. My cousin, rest in peace. He died like unexpectedly the same weekend Tupac got shot back in '96. That's how long ago this was. But he was an eye doctor, and I got to see this as a child. He got his practice in the late '80s, but the city of LA would never allow him to open up a practice in LA. He's always had to open up a practice in Pomona, West Covina, out that way where they've been pushing niggas for the last 30 years. And as a child, I always asked myself why. And I remember asking him, we had a long conversation right before he died, because he finally had a clinic that was getting ready to open up on 83rd in Vermont. Okay. But that was only a result of the LA riots, Operation Rebuild LA. Well, if it weren't for the LA riots and Operation Rebuild LA, he never, ever, ever, ever would have had. And this is an eye doctor. This isn't somebody selling, anything destructive. A black eye doctor could have opened an eye clinic in South Central LA, which at the time was still like 60% black in South Central at that time.
Yeah.
And so that's the kind of games the city plays with black business ownership.
So the last time I was in LA, which was 2021 in June, and I was it Watts? I think I was in the Watts area, no, Compton area. And much like Washington D.C. gentrification, you don't see, it used to be called Chocolate City, it's no longer that. I was like, yo, where's the niggas? Where's the black people? I saw a bunch of Migos. I saw a couple of niggas, but I said, where are the Negroes at, man? Where do y'all live at now?
LA's been under we're in hard gentrification now.
Okay.
But it's been under soft gentrification since the late 80s, early 90s.
Mm.
A lot of that started in the late 80s. Shit that gotten so violent here in LA, with the shootings and everything. Compton, those people in Compton, Watts, South Central, just one by one, moving to Pomona, moving to the late 80s, early 90s, it was more so moving to Pomona, Riverside, or San Bernardino. They was moving east. Mm-hmm. And then when you get to the late 90s into the early 2000s, that's when Lancaster, Palmdale really started to expand. So when you get into the late 90s, early 2000s, just one by one, black people are selling their homes in South Central. In, say, 2003, you selling a house that you paid $80,000 for in 1986, and now you're selling it. The market started to go up, so now you're starting to sell that house for $350,000, and you're buying a house out in Lancaster for $180,000. So it was just one by one. Black people started moving east first, then started moving north, and so by the time you get to the early 2000s, Compton is half Mexican, and now it's basically all Mexican. And we come into South Central. I've always been blessed enough to always stay in the black pocket, and I'm still the small black pocket that it is. I'm still in it.
Yeah.
And so you started to see the Crenshaw district people started to move out, and then another thing that happened was LA from like 2003 till about 2012. They stopped handing out Section 8 vouchers in the city of LA. If you already had a Section 8 voucher, you can stay in LA. But if you're getting a new Section 8 voucher, they forced you to move to Palmdale and Lancaster.
Gotcha.
Like, they forced black people who are on Section 8, no, you got to go an hour and a half north of the city if you're going to get this voucher. The city held on to that for over 10 years. And then so by the time we get to 2012, the 2008, the housing market crashed and everything. So that really started to push people out. And then when it started to rebound, 2012, you started seeing, rent in the jungles. Back in the day, you can get an apartment in the J's for like, you might get shot walking up to that motherfucker, but you get it for like $900 a month.
Wow.
When that same apartment is going to run you $3,200 a month.
Wow.
So soft gentrification, and in the last 5 or 6 years, it's just been smashed down.
Man. Speaking of getting shot, man, what the hell is going on out there though? Because I saw reports of like lootering. They crushing the 7-Elevens. Also, what's going on with the liquor?
What the fuck? Oh my god!
I just want to have you guys go see what car they're driving, get the license. Get the license plate.
Oh, let's talk about
License plate.
Get the car.
Did you want me to say something?
No se puede, ¿no? Oh my goodness.
So what that was a grocery store, right? And that was a grocery store that they were looting too. They were stealing thousands of dollars worth of liquor. Is this something that's prevalent that's going on out there now? Is it Christmas during the summer? Or what's
that 7-Eleven thing happened about 2 miles from where I live.
Wow.
No, it was a street takeover, and a lot of that Bay Area street takeover where they ghost ride the whip in the middle of the street, twirl. A lot of that shit's been coming to LA over the last 2 or 3 years, because you have a lot of people that's been displaced from the Bay down here, so they bring that Bay style street takeover, which is actually pretty hilarious to me. Yeah, it looked like they had a street take over. Then they went and did a smash and grab at that 7-Eleven. They got insurance. I don't, for me, I'm like, hey, whatever.
Yeah.
7-Eleven, and you don't want to see that happen to nobody's business, but hell, those businesses were built on our backs. You know what I mean? A lot of black people owned a lot of that real estate years ago in those businesses, and it got taken from us. So these are non-black people that they're taking from. I don't give a shit.
So you just get them up out of there. Get them up out of there so we can reclaim the space.
It's not just that. It's just it's gangster for gangster. The shit got gangster from the people, so the people gonna do gangster stuff in response. You know what I mean? And so people gotta understand, LA is a gangster city, and the gangs of LA, the black gangs are the last of the gangs of LA. They're we're the least of LA's gang problems. You know what I mean? Gang problems start with the police. Yeah. And every group, the oldest gangs in LA are white gangs. The Lunada Bay Boys in Palos Verdes, the Surfer Boys in Malibu. These motherfuckers literally be gangs, and then they become police officers, and they become city council. And that's just how the city works. And the people are responding to the gangsterism of the city. And if the Mexicans out here, the Mexicans will be Florencia 13 or whatever their gang is, and then they'll still get put up in the sheriff department. Versus if you black and your brother was in the gang, your ass ain't gonna get hired by the LAPD or the sheriff department. If you Mexican, if you Asian, they can have all kind of tattoos. You got triads out here, Asians. You got, them Asian cops. Paul Tanaka his brother was the mayor of Gardena, and he was the undersheriff here in LA, of the LA County Sheriff. They both was tied to them damn Vikings. So you could be Asian, be from a gang. You can be Mexican, be from a gang, and still get a police job. You black, if you see a black cop, you guarantee you he's all the way straight, and so is everyone in his family. So yeah, they just like to show the response to the conditions black people are put under. They don't talk about the whole picture. And let me tell y'all something real quick for those who don't know me. I am not an apologist. I don't fuck with gangs. I never have. Born and raised here. It's like gang members, all right, cool. Y'all over there, I'm over here. You in the gang and I know you, and you get, I got a lot of friends who I know that were in gangs, and I've always had a rule. I don't go to gangster funerals. You know what you signed up for. You know what I mean? So you gotta handle whatever you handle. I'm not one of those dudes that have reverence for gang members. Like, to me, I'm like, y'all fucking shit up. But at the same time, I understand the total environment, so I don't judge harshly the way I used to.
Yeah. Hey, let's talk about your podcast, because your perspective is straightforward, yo. Sometimes I see that you live in the gray area, but most times I see that you live in the gray area, but you just don't have black or white thinking. Hope Tesh, is that the name of it?
Hotep-ish.
Let's talk about that, bro. There we go. Yes, sir. Let's talk about your podcast. Introduce that to us. The Intelligent-ish Talk. How long have you been doing it? I listen to it. I love the perspective. I love the things that you talk about, and we're gonna kind of revisit some of those things today.
That's fine. Like, I named it that because there was a thing a few years ago where you saw a lot of people that say, like, black people who are in our history, y'all just a bunch of ashy hoteps. That's what people will say. That gotten real popular. People saying that. Oh, you just a hotep because you talk all that black stuff. So I said, okay, I'll be talking black shit. So I'm a troll a little bit. I'm gonna take that name, but I'm gonna put the ish on it because I'm not. I believe. I don't believe in one way of thinking.
Gotcha.
And a lot of the hotep niggas be like, you can't eat pork, but as you can tell, I'm a fat motherfucker. I eat pork.
I'm mad.
And so, it's just, so I appreciate, I support the cause, but, I don't wear shea butter. You know what I mean? So that's what the ish is for.
Gotcha.
And also a double entendre is intelligent. It's like, basically, I want to say intelligent shit talk.
Yeah.
But I don't want to put intelligent shit talk on my tag. So intelligent talk, hotep-ish. But I'm still a 10 toes down, South Central LA, third generation Los Angeles, California nigga.
There we go. And so how long you been doing that?
I've been doing that one for about 2 years now. A little over 2 years. I finally put 10 toes down and committed to it like June 2020. before that, I was kind of dibble dabbling. You know, you kind of do a show here, you kind of do a show there. You know, then you don't do a show for like 2 years. And now, you know how people always say, I was one of those one day I'm going to do ass niggas.
Yeah.
You know, we all know people like that. One day I'm going. Then you start and then you stop. People like, whatever happened to such and such? Nah, man. You see, man. You see. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna stop being a one day I'm gonna do ass nigga, and I'm just gonna do it. And I just started doing it consistently ever since then, and the results have been great.
There we go. So not only do you have all of those things under your belt, but you're also a musician too.
Mm-hmm.
Is it just the drums that you play, or can you play multiple instruments? And where did you get that from?
Well, for me, drums. Drums are my main thing. And that's my other music show, Incense and Ashtrays, where I basically break down music history, and I do music talk, and I do my Sunday night and Friday nights. I sort of DJ a live DJ program where old school radio, where we play the music and we explain it and break it down. Where that come from? Well, I'm a self-taught drummer. I started playing. Hell, I would have started playing at 3 if I could, but my dad was like, I can't afford no damn drum set. So it was when I was 13, 14, Pops and my parents got together, finally got me a drum set. And I used to work a lot. So I was mowing lines. Like, they got me the initial set, but everything after that was on me. So I would mow lines, wash cars, do whatever I could do to add to my drum set. And I'm a self-taught drummer. And I played in church for 20 years. Hell, I still play in church with the prices right. You know what I'm saying? Church pay. But I played and I played around town for a long time. That's what I did before stand-up comedy. That's always been my artistic expression, is through the drums. And from there, I just, like anything else, when I learn something, I like to learn the history around it. I like to learn what it's about. So now, over the last year or so, I've been sort of thrust into the position of music historian because there's been a lot of lies and misconceptions about Black music and where it comes from and the history of it. And a lot of stuff that I know, I just assumed everybody knew. Mm. And my wife would always just be like, man, people don't know that shit. You because she's been on me since I was 14. She was like, you was always that nerdy one up in the books, reading, like listening to the John Coltrane albums when everybody else was listening to TLC. I was listening to Earth, Wind & Fire. Yeah. When everybody else was arguing, it's Nas and DMX, and I was more so into Parliament Funkadelic, you know what I mean? Into Miles Davis. So I've always been in that. I've always studied music because I've always just wanted to be the best drummer I can be. And so that's how that got started. Just me. That's how I express myself through music, through the language of the drums. And I don't play a bunch of instruments. When I see people play a whole bunch of different instruments, I'll be in awe. Not envy. I'll be in awe, like, yo. Like my man J-Mo, that motherfucker played the guitar, the bass, the piano. I'm like, shit. You need
So not only are you talented, but you're surrounded by a bunch of talent. And so we're going to watch this 30-second clip. Is Diddy and Timberland getting into it? Not getting into it, but having a discussion regarding, and you talked about this on your show, is R&B dead? Because I'm a 80s baby, and but I grew up listening to my parents' music.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't listen to a bunch of rap, and they listen to a lot of R&B. But I want to hear what he has to say in reference to is R&B dead. So here we go, fellas.
All right, brother.
Because I ain't feeling no emotion, B.
Okay, that's what I said. That's what I said. I said the messages on the beat. I said, take the beat out. I said, you're absolutely right. I said, I don't know about the messages, and it's not coming with that feeling. But I was talking from a producer standpoint. I wasn't talking from the artist.
Dude, it ain't give you no emotion. That's not R&B. That's something else.
So look, it's this girl named Susan Carroll. I feel like she really sang.
Okay, so basically, Diddy was saying there's no emotion left within R&B. There's no more feeling left. And Timberland was saying, okay, look, I agree. Let's drop the beat and let's get back to the feeling. Diddy, to me, he was saying that R&B is dead. What's your thought?
Yeah, Diddy helped kill it. And don't get me wrong, this isn't something I just thought of when Diddy said that. I've always been very open when it comes to music, feeling. And I remember when the vibration changed in about 93. I remember I was 12 years old in 1993. And I remember feeling it then.
Mhm.
It's just that now a lot of that stuff is starting to come out. So I'm over here expressing stuff that I've been thinking for damn near 20 years. Because I remember I would listen to my parents, like you, I would listen to my parents' music. And then I would listen to my music. And there would always be something missing. Like, what is it? You didn't know, but you felt it.
Mhm.
And so there's the reason why I say that. And I'm not saying it was even bad music. When I look back historically, when it comes to R&B, traditionally, when you talk about the emotion and the feeling, that is tied into the music and the musicality, all right? Let's break it down. R&B is the most sophisticated form of music that we have. And it's a form of music that's been intentionally, the vibration of it has been intentionally lowered since the 70s, all right?
Mhm.
You R&B is supposed to have all four elements of life: earth, air, water, fire. Earth, air, water, fire. I always got to put my fingers on. I'm dyslexic. But earth, air, water, fire. Your earth is your drums and your bass. That's the earth. That's the foundation of the music. All music is built around the drums and bass. Live drums and bass, not some damn machine. Then you have the fire element. That's your horns. That's why Earth and the Fire's horn section was called the Phoenix horns. Phoenix is fire, right? The fire rising from the ashes. And then you get when it comes to your water, that's your singer, that's your keys. They bring the liquid to the music. And the motion, the emotion, the wind, the spirit is those strings. So what happened in the late 70s, when I always talk about this with the white paper report with Clive Davis, this was an actual report that you'd be hard pressed to find. But there's a book out there called the Harvard Study that gives you half the information. The Columbia report, I'm sorry, done by Harvard University. And basically, that's where they intentionally took these elements out of our music one by one, but it happened very slowly so we wouldn't see it happen. If you go back and just listen, music from the 70s, R&B from the 70s, generally 85 to 90% of the time has string arrangements underneath. That's swirls your emotion. And they may be low. They may just be a small little flaking, but that the flaking replicates your feeling. You listen to Marvin Gaye's "I Want You" album, and you listen to Leon Ware's string arrangements. Everything that Marvin Gaye is saying, the strings give you that feeling. Barry White, Mr. James Carmichael, these arrangers, Gene Page, Paul Reiser, they gave you the feeling to go along with the words. The first thing that was taken out of our music in the 80s was the strings. When you go back to the 80s, you still have great singing, you still have great bands, great musicianship, but there are no more strings. And then when you get later into the 80s, into the late 80s, the strings are gone. Now they take the drums. They replace the drum set with the drum machine. And then as you get into the early 90s, they take the bass guitar away and replace it with the 808. So the things that stir the emotion within the music, those elements are now gone. So going back to Puffy, when What's the 411 dropped, that was on Uptown Records, and Puffy was the person that got Mary J. Blige to Uptown Records. That's when Real Love came out. Don't get me wrong, What's the 411 is one of the greatest albums of all time. I'm not here criticizing the music. It was still good music. The problem was it was so good, it influenced a changing of the tide of how R&B was done. When Real Love came out, that's when the hip-hop 4-bar loop became the soundtrack to R&B. And at that point is when R&B lost its emotion and its feeling. See, in hip hop, you can do a 4-bar loop because people are rapping. It's more so about the groove to support the poetry that the rapper is spitting. But R&B is a little deeper than that. With R&B, it's not just about the lyrics. The music itself has to transmit the feeling.
Right.
And I remember when I talked to my father-in-law all the time about recording with Marvin Gaye. When he recorded an album with Marvin Gaye with Motown, the album never came out. But he talked about how easy it was to record with Marvin Gaye, because he would say Marvin Gaye would be like, all right, for this song, the girl left me. So as an arranger, he knew the right chords and string arrangements and horn arrangements to mimic the feeling of the girl leaving you. And so the whole message got communicated to you when you were in the song. Nowadays, when you do a hip hop 4-bar loop, you just getting words. You're not getting the emotion that's being conveyed behind the music. So you get Faith Evans to go to Bad Boy, and they basically, her biggest hit was Never Had a Love Like This Before, but the beat to that was just a break beat of the Chic Cheer. It's a song by Chic called Chic Cheer. That wasn't meant to be the whole song. That was just the breakdown.
Right.
So when you see Diddy's Bad Boy Records, and then it got transferred and got bigger when the sound got down to Atlanta, they perfected bringing the hip hop musicianship into R&B, and that's what removed the emotion from R&B, and that was 25, 30, almost 30 years ago. So now we're 30 years past that, to where they not only removed the drums, they not only removed the strings and the horns, they removed the bridge, they removed the intro, they removed the outro, they removed key changes. You ain't seen a key change in music in I don't know how long. You haven't heard a crescendo. You haven't heard an arpeggio, any of those elements that give you the waves of emotion a song should give you. And now they ain't even fucking singing no more. They singing through auto-tune exclusively.
Yeah.
That's where it was, but it started then, and it devolved since. And he is right. Like, radio mainstream R&B is dead, but it's still R&B out there.
Oh, for sure.
Corey Henry's one. We Are King. It's these three ladies named King. They're beautiful. Anderson .Paak is still doing it. You know, Jasmine Sullivan's still doing it. You know, so it's still out there, but the radio don't support it.
No, they don't. And I know some of my favorite artists are, you know, like Kendrick Soul and Family, but they're put into like a neo soul kind of category. But you know, they're live music. I'm a fan of live music. And here in DC, we have the genre called go-go, which has live bands and things like that. Which is, you know, I grew up playing in a band, but I'm not the biggest fan of that genre of music now as a grown man. But yeah.
People get mad at me because I love funk and I appreciate go-go, but I'll be like, go-go ain't really my thing. They be getting mad. Hey, it's just not. But I appreciate it.
I appreciate it too, man. I'm with you all the way. But you are right. There's still some R&B artists out there that are still doing it. Now, when I was a youngin', when I was a teenager, we had people like, you know, Tyrese, and you know, when he would come out singing, and you had, but then you know, you had the whole Usher thing too, which was different than Tyrese, who could really sing, you know. And so I saw the difference. You had Jodeci, and then later on you came out with Drew Hill, and Drew Hill kind of still kept a little bit of the R&B flavor, but they interjected a little bit of that hip hop in there too.
Yeah, and now think about this. We grew up, our parents, we grew up with groups we can look up to. You have to choose between Boys to Men and Jodeci.
Yeah.
You know, you have the fellas that, you know, which fellow are you more like a Jodeci type nigga, or are you a Boys to Men type nigga? Yeah. And then you have the female groups to look up to. You have the ones that like, which group is finer, SWV or TLC? Those were battles we had as kids. Think about it. There are people now who are 20 years old who never had a boy band or a girl band to fantasize about and look up to.
Right.
They for the most part removed the bands because they don't the singing groups. And doo-wop singing is an essential core element to rhythm and blues music. Doo-wop it started with people singing on the corners in Detroit and Philadelphia and Black America through the 40s and 50s, harmonizing. You don't see that harmony anymore. You don't get to see 4 black men, 4 black women in Vogue singing as one. And that does a lot to your spirit. We look at kids now and wonder why everything is so individualistic, why they so isolated. Even their music is isolated. They don't even have a concept of 4 people singing as one. And that just does a lot. So it's like that whole group thing. They'll let BTS some Asians sing our music. You know, and put money behind that, you know what I mean? And going back to the live orchestration, they'll give that live orchestration and that quality production to an Adele, but not to Tyrese. I like Tyrese's career, but what if Tyrese got the same music production quality as Marvin Gaye or as Teddy Pendergrass? Because Teddy P had Gamble and Huff behind them and Thom Bell. Them cats can arrange some music for your ass. You can take out the vocals and just listen to the symphonic arrangements and be in heaven.
Yeah.
What if he's had that? What if Eric Roberson had that? What if Frank McComb had that? R&B was intentionally snuffed for the profit and for the benefit of hip hop, and that wasn't our decision. That's not that's not a move that we made as Black people. When we owned the record label still in the '90s, we had a diversity in our music. That stuff also, a lot of our record labels started getting bought up in the late '90s into the early 2000s. So by the time Capitol and Sony and all those guys owned all of the music, they basically said, "Look, we ain't gonna fund R&B no more. All that money, all the R&B budgets, that now goes to bling rap and rap telling you to spend all your goddamn money and get nothing back for it. Hoes clothes." That's all the 2000s, the fuckboy era of hip hop. It was all about taking your money, spending it on bullshit, buying bullshit. It's about my hoes. It's about my clothes. It's about my ice. And at that point is when the record industry stopped funding singers who are singing to you about love and compassion.
Yeah, and that's one thing that I don't hear a lot about now is, and when I do hear it, I normally hear about someone taking someone else's girl or some other bullshit. I don't hear the plea that the man gives to the woman and vice versa anymore. Like you said, it's totally about separatism within music and also within the what we call hip R&B now is totally separate. Nobody is really singing about unity anymore. And your perspective, ladies and gentlemen, I will say y'all getting a master class right now on a perspective of where the music industry went as far as R&B. I never thought to think about R&B as those folks behind the singer, the actual musicians playing that creates that entire feel. It's not just the vocals. It's just not the guy or the girl in front of the mic, who look good. It's the people behind who really have the expertise. I never thought about that, bro. You bring like I said, you bring a perspective. Where the hell you get that from?
It's just years of playing and listening. It's just my ears listening because, and I played for. We got to break down the words: rhythm and blues.
Mm-hmm.
First word is rhythm, and what is the rhythm? The rhythm is the rhythm of jazz. It's the rhythm of us as a people. It's the rhythm of life. It's the rhythm. It's the rhythm of the world. It's the rhythm of how we live day to day. That's the rhythm. The blues is the words. That tells you that when it comes to R&B, the words is secondary to the music.
Yeah.
Maurice White used to always say this. That was a producer of Earth, and Fire, band leader and producer from Earth, and Fire. When he would put his music together, he would always say it's not about the words. It's about the feeling. Yeah. And if you think about the Earth, and Fire stuff, there's a lot of certain things you don't know damn what he's saying. Yeah. And what he's uttering in the vocals ain't what's written on the paper, but it's the feeling of the word. And we got to remember this. My background's in communication studies, that's what my degree is in. We got to remember this. Words are only 8% of communication. Feeling is 45% of what's the intent, the emotion. And it's even more, that's just how it is talking. So in music, that's more intensified. It's when I would play the drums ain't about, yes, you want to keep time. Yes, you want to sound good. But it's more about the feeling. It's the emotion you're putting into the music. With R&B, I always say that the reason why Michael Jackson's music did the way it did, and the reason why you won't see another Michael Jackson the way music is constructed now, because Michael Jackson not only had the feeling, Michael Jackson sang with a feeling. He emoted his words. And behind him, you had Louis Johnson on bass from the Brothers Johnson, one of the greatest. Louis Thunder Thumbs Johnson. You had Quincy Jones producing, who is a student of Count Basie. We don't understand how important Count Basie is to the overall legacy of music. He brought space into the music and it's saying, you don't have to play every note. Sometimes the music is in the gaps in between notes. And so Quincy Jones comes under that Count Basie tutelage. You had Tom Ford arranging the horns. He used to arrange horns for Earth, and Fire and all kinds of other mega bands. You had George Duke and Joe Sample on keyboards and Greg Fillinganes. Greg Fillinganes is the most recorded artist of all time. You had James Ingram singing background on the album, you know what I mean, and writing some of the music. I mean, you really had an all-star cast. Wawa Watson playing the guitar. You really had some of the, when you look at the musicians on the Thriller and the Off the Wall album,
Mhm.
It's like looking at, if you're a basketball fan, it's like looking at the 92 Olympic team and the 2012 Olympic team. You literally had Kobe, Jordan, LeBron, Carmelo, Durant in their prime, all being the musicians supporting the sound of Michael Jackson.
Mhm.
All of those emotions are going into the music. And it's those emotions that you feel when Off the Wall hits that make you just jump about your seat and dance, no matter how you feel, because that's the emotion and the intent put into the music. That's what's really being communicated. Most people don't even know what a song is talking about. A lot of times you won't even know what a song is talking about for 2 or 3 years, but love it.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
You just love it because it's that emotion, man. And that's what the music is. It's emotion.
Speaking of emotion, I went to go see the Elvis movie, right? And I was hesitant because I had heard so much bullshit about Elvis and race and all that stuff. But what I did, I will say this: it was the best shot movie I've ever seen. And I got to learn a little more about Elvis and how he got his talent, and
Yeah,
his talent came from us.
yeah, of
Talent
course.
came from the black church, and I didn't know that he had ties in with BB King and hanging with those folks like that. What's your opinion of even white culture like Elvis coming over and becoming megastars in the R&B, or was that considered to be R&B?
That was R&B that they renamed to rock and roll to isolate to separate Elvis and not, they basically to trick everybody else into thinking Elvis ain't doing black music, so this is rock and roll. That isn't R&B.
Mhm.
It was R&B, all right, and so, but that happens. There are always exceptions of white people who have talent. You know what I mean? And there are always going to be people, that can mock our music very well. And the reason why they may be able to mock our music very well is because based on their geographic location, they may have had similar experiences to us.
Mhm.
So they can mock it, but they can never innovate anything. They
Yeah.
don't never innovate anything. What the best they do is imitate our average. Their best is an imitation of our average at the end of the day. And Elvis is an amalgamation of a lot of different black artists. And one thing about the world, because we do live in an anti-black world, that when they see black people do something, they love it because they love our culture. But the minute they can find somebody that looks like them or somebody that's non-black that does it, that non-black person is always going to go to the top because the world prefers black culture without a black face.
Mm.
So Elvis was one. You see it now. You see it with the whole Eminem talk. You see it with K-pop, what's going on. You see it with Bruno Mars. You see it with Adele. Anytime you can get black culture and black music from a non-black face, it's going to sell 3 times, 5 times many as the best black person that does it because people, when they see black people doing it, they're faced with their insecurities, so they have a decision to make. But when they see a non-black person do our music, their insecurities and those filters go out the door. They say, "Hey, let's buy it. It's the best thing ever." And on top of that, culturally, they're different. They take a little bit of the seasoning away. Like our music, like our food, sometimes got a little too much spice in it for other people. You,
Mm-hmm.
you'll have the best black-owned restaurant, but the minute that black-owned restaurant goes mainstream, goes corporate, goes to their side of town, don't it lose its seasoning a little bit?
It does. It become bland.
It becomes bland because white music is just black music sped up.
Yeah.
Like our music is a little slower. You gotta feel it. That's why we have pocket.
Mhm.
Everything that happens in black music happens in between the beat. We
Yeah.
dance between the beats. When I hit that snare on the 2 and the 4, that's just to bring you back into now so you can go back into grooving between the beats.
Mhm.
Well, white culture, non-black culture, they don't have the groove and feeling we do. They gotta bounce on top of the beat. That they if you notice their music is faster, they kind of bounce around when they because they're like a pogo stick. So with a white artist, you're gonna remove that seasoning, you're gonna take some of that salt out, you're gonna take some of that pepper out, and you're gonna put everything so you're gonna lighten it up and make everything on top to where it's bouncy. So on one hand, it's subconscious racism. On the other hand, it's just feeling. These people, they dance better to faster music because they have the same feeling we got. So a white person is going to take the seasoning out and make it more to their taste. Our music without all of our ingredients.
How much would you say that church or Africa has influenced R&B?
Church, the most. There's a synergy between the church and R&B, right? And Africa has very little influence on R&B. And I say little because at the end of the day, everything is African. Language is African.
Mhm.
You know, literally everything is African at its root. Everything. But when it comes down to our style of R&B here in North America, that's something that's created and it's in tune with this particular landmass. We got to remember, music is a sonic interpretation of your environment. That's why it sounds different. That's why in the Caribbean, their music is more colorful. It's tropical. A lot of Caribbean musicians, if you talk to them, they hear in color. They'll hear something and they'll see a color. And because in tropical environments, you know, you got to be able to distinct, you know, in these forested areas, when sound comes, you got to be really, you know, the colors will come. Versus if you're in a more environment without as many trees, you know, you may see things. That's why American music is called blues. We see a lot of goddamn blues, and we deal with blues.
Yeah.
So why did I say all that? I said all that to say our music, rhythm and blues, is the sonic interpretation of this particular landmass and the experience on this particular landmass day to day. And when it comes to church, there's a synergy between R&B and church and gospel music. You got to realize R&B comes before the term gospel music. Gospel music is a genre that records. R&B was here before gospel music. Church music was around. You had church music, but you got to remember, church is always resistant to change. Church is very conservative. Church, you know, what are you doing out there in those juke joints with all those? You need to come to spend time with Jesus. So the church doesn't innovate.
Yeah.
Church is an incubator for talent. So you play your music, and then what ends up happening is you start playing music as a teenager in church. The church welcomes you as a young child. And then when you get a little older, you playing the juke joints on Saturday night. You're not supposed to be playing in the juke joints. If the church find out you playing in the juke joints, you might get, you know, kicked out of the church. But still, the church people played in the juke joints on Friday and Saturday night, and then back in the church on Sunday morning. So they bring that innovation to the church.
Yeah.
Which then teaches the new younger musicians coming in, and as a musician, you get to either learn chops or refresh your chops in church, and then you go out to the R&B side and you innovate, and the R&B side is always open to the innovation, and then that innovation eventually bleeds back into the church, which then keeps musicians and young musicians coming up sharp. And so there's a synergetic relationship between R&B and gospel. Gospel in the church is an incubator for R&B talent. R&B sounds and rhythm, and then there's also times where gospel rhythms come into R&B. When I talked to my father-in-law, Mr. James Carmichael, when I asked him what got him hired at Motown, he always said, like, back in the late 60s, Motown was really, the gospel field with Aretha was really starting to take off. So Motown wanted to go to more of a gospel feel, and he was a gospel music producer, so he brought that gospel to Motown. And that's where you get he wrote the arrangements for Got to Be There by the Jackson 5. A lot of your early Michael Jackson, Got to Be There, Maybe Tomorrow. A lot of that Jackson 5 stuff was his musical compositions, but those compositions came out of the mindset of somebody who was still arranging music for church at the time too. So that kind of a symbiotic relationship.
My man. So we about to take a right hand turn, man, and we're gonna stay on the church lane for a second. And so I'm gonna play a 20-second video of TD Jakes in church, and I wanted to know your perspective regarding what he was talking about, because I know that you have a degree in communication, and you also train folks on how to communicate and how to deal with one another in relationship. So TD Jakes is basically saying that we're raising our women up to be men. And I wanted to know, what was your perspective when it came to that? Here we go.
Because we are raising up women to be men. And you are not applauded for your femininity. You are applauded in the contemporary society by how tough, rough, nasty, mean, aggressive, hateful, possessive you are, and you are climbing the corporate ladder, but we are losing our families.
So when you deal with the youth and you deal with, and I'm pretty sure you've dealt with, because you say you coach basketball, so you got AAU for girls and boys, and so when you deal with the youth and you're dealing with their parents and things like that, what are you getting more of the masculinity of the female gender coming forth, especially on the West Coast? Because here on the East Coast in DC, where they say that the black woman is the most, they have the highest rate of graduation from college, which means that they're 9 times out of 10 doing better than their counterparts, us as black men, financially. They don't need you for much other than to buy them this, if that, but for security. What is your thought process when I played that video and you heard TD Jakes say what he said?
I'm thinking, well, TD Jakes, y'all about 30 years late, because the church is what helped foster that environment, honestly.
Mm.
When I was in church, that was one of the biggest. I don't really go to church no more, but when I was in church, that was one of the biggest issues. The church, for a long time through the 90s, the church was a place where the only deep voice could be the voice of the pastor. You know what I mean? That would be the only voice. And basically, a lot of the women in church would be the ones going around acting like the police for the pastor, like, doing everything. And the church sort of fostered a competitive environment between men and women. You know what I mean? The women are basically the main people who tithed. And so the church, TD Jakes included, raised women in these last 30 years on you can't do no wrong.
There we go.
Biggest issues with a lot of the men in the church is like, and when I would see this as a young child growing up in church, I saw so many divorces happen with like musician friends of mine, cats in the band. You see them leave the band. It's like, yeah, my wife listened to the pastor, not me. You know what I mean? And that was a major issue, and it still is in the church.
Yes, it is.
It's good to see TD Jakes jumping on the train now, but the church helped push. Really, at the end of the day, we got to go back to society's been pushing masculinity on women for going back to the 60s. I'm a woman, hear me roar. That's been a societal thing that the church has then echoed. So now it's gotten to the point to where it's gotten too far out of balance, and people are trying to find ways to bring it back into balance. Because this society said, women, go get, I got a job. Look at the music of the 90s, in the 2000s, Beyonce, all the ladies who independent, throw your hands up at me. It's a lot of things that went on at one time at the same time that encouraged women to be more masculine. And we got to remember that the human brain, no matter what color you are, it moves. We as humans, we are influenced through sacrifice, through rewards and consequences. Always remember that. The same way you train a dog is the same way you train a human. Through rewards and consequences. What gets rewarded? Oh, if you're a woman that says I have my stuff together and I have a job and can't no man tell me anything, it's like, Oprah, you go, girl. Oh, you need me. I'm not going to be no. I remember those talk shows back in the 90s. A woman of the 90s. I'm not going to just sit in the house and be cooking for no man. That was a point of pride amongst women in the 90s. And women to get a you go, girl, that was the reward. So what do the young girls see? The girls coming up, they see, okay, the rewards are in getting a degree, being independent, not needing a man. So that's going to influence people to go down that track. And the people who were women who were motherly, they sort of got talked about pretty bad in the 90s. If you go back to those 90s talk shows, you know what I mean? And so we've reached a point to where we now have we're 2 or 3 generations we're in our 3rd generation of pride in women being in masculine roles, and we're suffering the consequence for it now. So the church, about 30 years late, like it usually is now trying to address that.
Yeah. So before we wrap up, hey, let's have a conversation about your work, your latest projects, and the projects that you're working on. Do you currently have a book out now, right?
Well, I should have released it. I'll be releasing it this week, y'all. You always finally I gotta change this, gotta change that. I just gotta let it go because I'm never gonna stop changing stuff. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
But it's called Tell It Like It Is, the Art of Loving Communication. We always talk about the need to keep the Black family together, the need to keep families together. But let's just tell the truth. You ain't gonna keep families together talking to people like they crazy. You
Mhm.
know, our grandfathers can get away with that back in the 40s and the 50s. That was a different time. In today's world, you can't expect to have a loving relationship and you always dictating and telling people what to do, telling people how to act. And the world should conform around me because I'm a man or I'm a woman, hear me war. So instead of me criticizing people for that, I wrote my book, and it's less than 70 pages. It's not a long book because I don't want it to be drawn out, and I want it to be something that people can always go back and refer to. It's not a book that you just read one time and sit down. It's sort of a guidebook. It kind of helps you through the process, helps you how to talk to people, how to listen, when is a good time to talk. Because not sometimes it's not what you say, it's when you say it. It's
Right.
timing.
Right.
And it's also going back to what we talk about with music, it's the emotion in which you convey the message. You can say the most loving something in your heart that may be loving, but if you're saying it from an angry spirit, it's not going to be received out of in love. It's going to be received as a challenge. So this book is helping people on how and when to say what they need to say. And along with that, I do still do my website is breakthroughas.org. That's my company where I've been working for a long time, which is helping families with their communication. And I'm also a card reader. You know, everybody's not into that, but I read playing cards, your regular deck of playing cards. I read that because I got into that because all my years working with families and stuff like that, the hardest part in counseling is getting down to the truth.
Mhm.
Most people like to put on the front. So you spend your first 2 or 3 months of counseling just digging through people's lies they've been telling themselves that got them to this point. You know what I mean? So I was like, you know what? I don't like taking people's money for 3 and 4 months before I'm able to finally start working on solutions.
Mhm.
So I discovered not discovered it because it's out there, but I learned the science and the magic behind playing cards. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And people don't understand that playing cards this is one of the oldest sciences in the world. This is before tarot, it's before all that stuff. And the reason why it's been able to exist and last for so long because when civilizations became conquered and things like that, they were always able to hide this knowledge in a game.
Mhm.
You know, oh, we're just playing poker. We're just playing spades. When really each card has an identity and personality. If I see a jack of spades, I know I'm dealing with somebody who talks a big game but probably ain't doing it.
Mhm.
These individuals that sit around and you see that they're really cool, but they not really. If I see a jack of spades birthday or jack of spades personality, I know that whatever they telling me, they probably bullshitting me. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
I know that when I'm dealing with someone like say five of clubs, I'm dealing with somebody who's a communicator again, but like the jack of spades is somebody that sort of is a double speaker, like a five. And basically I said all that to say when you learn the science of cards, you really learn the personalities and the relationships. So now my counseling sessions went from people needing to be with me 3 and 4, 5, 6 months to work through their relationship issues. Now I can work a lot of relationship issues out 3 or 4 sessions and I'm done because I'm able to get directly to the truth based on your personality through understanding the science of cards.
Oh
So
man, I'm definitely going to have you back, brother. I'm definitely going to have you back and in tune with some groups of folks that I know, man. What you're doing is, I believe, is very powerful. And can you shout out your website again for that?
that one is breakthrough, the word breakthrough, then the letters AS, Breakthrough Advocacy Services is the name of the company, but breakthrough as.org. And that's where I go to, and that's where my book is going to be based out of. That's my day-to-day groundwork, and I've been having that company since 2018. Um, Helping people, man. Everything I do is geared towards helping people because at the end of the day, I want to help myself. And so, through my own journey of self-help and self-knowledge and self-awareness, I pass along the information.
Right.
Not because I'm perfect, not because I know it all, but because I'm an individual that's on the path of being the best person that I can be. and whatever, each one teach one. That's how I look at it.
I'm gonna make sure that I put all of that into the description. Also send me your cash out, bro. Okay, I'm gonna need that ASAP. Brother Dwann, man, I appreciate you so much. You a wealth of knowledge, bro. You're now listening to the Root Cause podcast, where you received a masterclass today on many things, yo. Many things brought to you by this brother, Dwann. Shout out your podcast one more time, man, so that we can have my supporters and your new listeners come and take part.
Hotep Bitch, if you see my name, Dwann B at the bottom, that's my YouTube channel, Dwann space B, the way it is underneath my face right now. That's my YouTube channel, and that's where you can find Hotepish, where I talk more so news and information and the current events of what's going on. You can also find Incense and Ashtrays there, and Incense and Ashtrays is also on Spotify. It's on Apple Podcasts, and it's on Mixcloud. Mixcloud is where I do my breakdowns live with the music, and I upload them to Spotify under Incense and Ashtrays. That's where I break down music history. I do my live music mixes, and everything that we talk about musically, I break it down and I tell stories, because I've been, all my years as a musician, I've been blessed enough to be around people who played, in with Earth and Fire, with Parliament, Funkadelic, and all these other old school bands. And so I have a lot of firsthand stories, a lot of firsthand information, and also current musicians, people who are, my man J-Mo, people who are currently winning Grammys now. These are people I talk to on the show to really break down music and music history. And I also got my Black American Music Family Tree that's on that website. 400 years of Black music put on one tree. And I'm showing you how hip hop is rooted in the sacred spirituals of the 1600s. And I'm showing you how we evolved from sacred spirituals, brass bands, arranged quartets, to ragtime, to blues, to jazz, to hip hop, to R&B, to funk, to disco, to blue, to country music, to EDM, and how all of that music branches out from the root of Black America. And so it also the art of stand-up comedy. People don't understand the blues, jazz, and stand-up comedy are all being created at the same time out of the same juke joints. So the tree points all that out.
My God. Hey, once again, y'all are now listening to the Root Cause podcast, where we like to have the hard conversations and we like to get different perspectives. Today, that was done. The mission was accomplished. Y'all tune in next Sunday where we'll have more fire. Dwann, you stand by, my good brother. Hey, we out.